Hello. No hot tea today. I've been making this really good iced green tea with lemon. Oh, it's really good. So that's what I've got. I wanted to tell you really quick about the police officer I dated. I don't even know really where to begin, but I kind of do. So we met on a dating app, of course, went to dinner and had a nice time. All the pretty typical things that you would expect in the beginning of a relationship. He was respectful, he was kind, he was communicative, he was fun. We had a great time. We really enjoyed each other's company. When I remember that relationship, it's pretty much 99.9% positive memories. Pretty sure he follows me on this app, or at least he did, because he's sent me a few messages since we've broken up. There's no bad blood there at all that I would say, and if I were to see him on the street, I'd be happy to see him. But ultimately, it didn't work out. We saw each other for about a year, maybe a little less than a year, and ultimately, I feel like we just weren't able to get past that like each other phase for one reason or another. I know for me, I was holding back. At that point, I had gotten in the habit of waiting to see how the man was going to behave and how he was going to show up before I fully invested, because I had too many times just like jumped headfirst into a relationship without kind of like looking up and seeing what was happening around me. So I'd gotten to this space where I would kind of hold off and see how he was going to respond and how he was going to show up, and then I would decide based on, what I was seeing. And he just never fully showed up. Now, he didn't really talk to me about a lot of deep things. And of course, I'm not going to share anything personal. I would never do that to anyone I dated, no matter how it ended. But he never fully opened up in like a real deep way. And I don't know if that's because he hadn't learned how, or he just wasn't comfortable, or he wasn't in the right space in his life, or he just had like past worries and hurts that he was struggling with. I'm really not sure why, but I do know that I was showing up in his life to a degree that he was not showing up in my life. And it got to a point where we actually did break up over it, because I was fully involved in his life, met his friends, was driving his kids places, hanging out on a regular basis, cooking dinners, like just doing life together on his side. But he wasn't doing the same on my side. He would go out to dinner with my friends, but he wouldn't even say more than 2 words while he was out to dinner. He would come over to my kid's house and he'd barbecue. And honestly, to this day, they still talk about the steaks that he used to make and say that I'm not allowed to date anyone else unless they can make steaks that good or better. But he would be there physically, but he was not emotionally or mentally involved in the moment. He'd get presents for my kid for his birthday, but he wasn't participating in what was happening. And I don't know why. We talked about it several times, and he's just well, that's just not who I am. But then when we'd be out with his friend, he's laughing and having a great time and fully involved. So it was just very strange, and I still don't know if he was fully aware of the difference, but there's only so many times you can talk about something that's not working, and you just have to admit that it's not going to work, and you're just kind of beating a dead horse if you continue in that situation, and you just expecting it to change when it's not going to. So we did break up. We missed each other terribly, because like I said, 99.9% of things were great. I remember the first time I stayed over at his house, he had my favorite snacks and drinks, and obviously he cleaned up the place, and he even had toiletries and designated things for me to use while I was there, because at that point we were new, but then we wound up just having a rhythm of, because when my kids were with their dad, I would be over at his house once a week, so he would always have stuff for me there, so I just had to worry about my clothes. I mean, very sweet, very thoughtful, very communicative. I really appreciated the habits. He would call me at certain times. He was always planning ahead for dates. Like there was so much of it that was so good, but he wasn't showing up in my like extended life. And we did get back together briefly, and then I noticed that one day I went to go and double check his birthday because I wanted to plan something, because I knew it was coming up, but I couldn't remember what day of that month that it was. So I went to go look on his Facebook page to confirm his birthday because I didn't want to bother him at work over something so silly, and I was kind of trying to surprise him, and I wanted to see what was available, right? So we weren't Facebook friends anymore, and I was like, what's going on? So I texted him about it and asked him what was going on, and I said, like, what happened? Why are we not Facebook friends anymore? And he's like, well, when we broke up, like, I deleted you as a Facebook friend. Okay, fair. And just to preface this, he was not active on social media. He had an account for, you know, like just basic purposes, but he never really interacted with it. I think he basically just used it for Facebook dating, and that was it. Maybe a couple like family connections and messaging he would use, but on his actual profile page, he wasn't really active on it. So it wasn't strange for me to not notice that he wasn't doing anything on his page, because he never really did. But I said, oh, that's interesting. I totally understood that he deleted me when we broke up. What I didn't understand was why he didn't re-add me. So I asked him, you know, I get that. Why didn't you re-add me when we got back together? And his words, pretty much verbatim, I like, just sticks in my head was, well, why would I need to do that? Everything in your life I hear about from you. I don't really care about your friends and family. To me, that was the nail in the coffin, because he very clearly wanted me to interact with his friends and family, but he wasn't willing to do the same with my friends and family. So that was like the tip of the iceberg. That was the ultimate conversation where things ended, because it was clear that he was never going to participate in my life the way that I was willing to participate in his. And I hadn't even fully committed yet. Like we hadn't said I love you. We weren't planning a super future. We were exclusive, and we were boyfriend, girlfriend, and we were like that level, but we weren't planning a future yet. And, you know, I wasn't doing all the things that I would do in a relationship if I was planning to spend my life with somebody. And I was already invested so much more than he was invested. And so when I realized I was holding back and still doing so much more than he was willing to do, I just had to walk away. Obviously, it wasn't a very pleasant conversation as it ended, but I know we've both obviously healed. We were both upset. We were both shocked. People say things when they're upset that they don't mean, and I know it was a heated conversation, but neither of us said anything hurtful. It was just sad that it had to end, because there was so much of it that was good. And it's probably one of those situations where if I hadn't been a mom, it might have worked out in the end. But when you are a mom, you have to consider what a relationship is going to do to your kids and like as your family as a whole. And I think that's where compatibility comes in. And that's the biggest thing I learned from that relationship, is that even if me and the guy are a great fit, if he doesn't fit my life or my lifestyle, we're ultimately not compatible. Because you got to think about all the things that are happening in your day-to-day life, special holidays, things that are going on. Like, do you want to show up by yourself to all of those things, or do you want to have your partner fully invested with you? And at the end of the day, it's not about what's right or what's wrong or what works or what doesn't work. It's about compatibility and what you want your life to look like. Some people are the theme park kind of relationship, and some people are the hiking kind of relationship, and some people are the couch kind of relationship. None of those are bad or good. They just are different. And the struggle with it all is that sometimes the compatibility is the issue, even when everything else lines up. And as sad as it was, I had to say goodbye. And I'm definitely better at making sure that the compatibility factor is there before I let my heart get involved. But yeah, compatibility is a big issue, and it's something that you have to look for.